People sources have confirmed that Beatrice's father, Prince Andrew, will be walking his 31-year-old daughter down the...
He was close with both of his daughters, Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, who he previously walked down the aisle.
A single piece of paper destroyed everything Princess Beatrice believed about herself. When she opened that DNA report, her hands started shaking and tears flooded her eyes. The results revealed something unthinkable. The man she called father her entire life was not her biological father. This discovery hit her so hard that she collapsed right there on the floor. Today, we will uncover how this secret stayed hidden for decades and who is Beatrice's real father. The hidden truth behind palace walls. Beatrice grew up believing she was royalty through and through. From the moment she took her first breath, everyone told her she belonged to one of the most prestigious bloodlines in history. She never questioned it because why would she? The palace raised her with absolute certainty about her identity. Every birthday celebration, every royal event, every photograph released to the public reinforced the same message. She was a princess by birth and by blood. This belief became the foundation of her entire existence.
Both Beatrice and Eugenie will both actually carry on. They will still hold both their princess titles and their York titles as well.
Life inside the palace seemed perfect from the outside. Beatrice attended the finest schools, wore designer clothes, and had access to privileges most people only dream about. She walked through golden hallways thinking this was her birthright. Her parents appeared united in public, smiling for cameras and waving at crowds. The royal machinery worked overtime to present an image of a happy and stable family. Beatrice absorbed this image and made it her reality. She had no reason to suspect anything different. But behind those heavy curtains and locked doors, a completely different story was unfolding. The people who worked inside the palace noticed things that outsiders never could. They saw the tension between Beatrice's parents when cameras were not around. They witnessed arguments that echoed through corridors late at night. They observed a marriage that was falling apart piece by piece while the world believed everything was perfect. These staff members became unwilling keepers of secrets they never asked to know. During the years surrounding Beatrice's birth, something significant was happening inside the palace. Her mother was struggling with a marriage that brought her no happiness.
Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson's unusual relationship. The Duke and Duchess of York, the two have had their fair share of ups and downs.
The expectations of royal life weighed heavily on her shoulders. She was expected to smile, wave, produce heirs, and never complain. But inside, she was suffocating. This was the environment into which Beatrice was born. An environment filled with secrets, frustrations, and hidden relationships that would one day come back to haunt everyone involved. The palace staff from that era remember unusual activities that raised eyebrows. There were visitors who came and went at odd hours. There were phone calls that ended abruptly when someone entered the room. There were trips that appeared on no official schedule. Those who noticed too much suddenly found themselves transferred to distant locations or offered generous retirement packages. The message was crystal clear. See nothing, hear nothing, say nothing. Your livelihood depends on your silence. One name kept appearing in whispered conversations among trusted staff members. A man who seemed to have unusual access to Beatrice's mother. He was not royalty, but somehow managed to be present at private gatherings. His relationship with the family was never officially explained. When junior staff asked about him, senior members quickly changed the subject. This man existed in a strange space between insider and outsider. Present, but never acknowledged. Visible, but somehow invisible. Documents from that period tell an interesting story for those who know how to read between the lines. Official records show gaps and inconsistencies. Photographs that should exist seem to have vanished. Diary entries that palace historians expected to find are mysteriously missing pages. Someone went through considerable effort to erase certain details from history. This kind of systematic removal does not happen by accident. It requires planning, resources, and a powerful motivation to keep something buried. The cover-up operation was remarkably thorough. Financial records show unusual payments to individuals who left palace employment during this period. These were not standard severance packages. The amounts were far too generous for routine departures. Some former staff members seemed to disappear entirely from public records after leaving. They moved to new cities, changed their contact information, and cut ties with former colleagues. It was as if they were being paid not just to leave, but to vanish completely. Inside the innermost circle of palace advisors, a small group knew the complete truth. These individuals carried the burden of knowledge that could destroy the monarchy if it ever became public. They created elaborate systems to protect this secret. Fake documents were prepared. Cover stories were rehearsed. Every possible leak was anticipated and plugged before it could happen. This was not paranoia. It was calculated protection of an institution they believed was more important than any individual truth. Years passed, and the secret remained buried. Beatrice grew up completely unaware that her very existence was surrounded by lies. She celebrated birthdays with the man she believed was her father. She sought his approval, treasured his advice, and built her identity around being his daughter. Every moment of connection they shared was genuine from her perspective, but underneath it all, a truth was waiting for the right moment to emerge and shatter everything she thought she knew. The older generation hoped the secret would die with them. They believed that some truths were better left buried forever. What purpose would it serve to tell Beatrice? In their minds, she was happy, settled, and secure in her identity. Why destroy that with information that would only cause pain? This reasoning allowed them to justify decades of deception. They told themselves they were protecting her, when in reality, they were protecting themselves and the institution they served. But secrets have a way of surfacing no matter how deep you bury them. In the age of science and technology, DNA does not lie. It does not care about royal protocols or institutional protection. It simply tells the truth written in every cell of our bodies. And when Beatrice decided to take that routine genetic test, she unknowingly set in motion the revelation of a secret that had been carefully guarded for her entire lifetime. The moment everything shattered. The day the results arrived started like any other day for Beatrice. She had meetings scheduled, events to attend, and the usual responsibilities that came with her position. The envelope from the medical facility sat on her desk among other correspondence. She did not rush to open it because she expected nothing unusual, just routine health information that would be filed away and forgotten. How wrong she was about what those pages contained. When she finally sat down to review the results, her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about an upcoming charity event and what she would wear.
Beatrice got to meet families, supporters, staff, and volunteers at the event.
The first few pages contained standard medical data, blood type, genetic markers for various conditions, ancestry composition. Then she turned to a page that made her stop breathing. The section about paternal lineage contained information that contradicted everything she had been told since birth. The clinical language of the report made the revelation even more brutal. There was no gentle way to deliver this news. Just cold scientific facts stating that the man listed as her father on every official document shared no genetic connection with her whatsoever. Beatrice read the words again and again, hoping she was misunderstanding something. But the conclusion was unavoidable. She was not biologically related to the man who had raised her as his daughter. Her body responded before her mind could process what was happening. Her hands began trembling so violently that she dropped the papers. Her vision blurred as tears filled her eyes. A sound escaped her throat that was somewhere between a gasp and a cry. She felt her legs give way beneath her, and she sank to the floor. The world she knew was crumbling around her, and she could do nothing to stop it. In that moment, every childhood memory took on a different meaning. She thought about her father teaching her to ride a bicycle, Was he thinking about this secret the whole time? She remembered him walking her down the aisle at family events. Did he look at her and see someone else's child? Every expression of paternal love now seemed contaminated by the possibility of hidden knowledge. Had he known all along? Had he loved her despite knowing? Or had he been deceived just like her? The questions multiplied faster than she could process them. Who else knew about this? How long had this secret existed? Why had no one told her the truth? Was her entire family built on a foundation of lies? Each question led to more questions until her mind was spinning out of control. She sat on that floor for what felt like hours, unable to move, unable to think clearly, unable to do anything except feel the weight of betrayal crushing her chest. When she finally gathered enough strength to stand, she knew she needed answers. But who could she trust to give her honest information? The people closest to her were potentially the same people who had hidden this truth for decades. Her mother, her relatives, the palace advisors, any of them could be complicit in the deception. Beatrice realized with horror that she was completely alone in her search for truth. The very people she would normally turn to for support were now suspects. She confronted her mother first because she needed to hear the truth from the one person who definitely knew it. The conversation was unlike anything that had ever happened between them. Beatrice showed her the DNA results and demanded an explanation. Her mother's face went pale. There was no denial, no attempt to claim the test was wrong. Just silence that confirmed every fear Beatrice had been harboring since reading that report. The explanation that eventually came was filled with excuses and justifications. Her mother spoke of a difficult marriage, of loneliness, of finding comfort with someone who understood her. She insisted that everything was done to protect Beatrice, to give her a stable life within the royal family. She begged her daughter to understand the impossible position she had been in. But Beatrice could not hear these explanations as anything other than elaborate excuses for decades of lying. The identity of her biological father emerged during this painful conversation. He was not a stranger, but someone who had existed on the periphery of royal life for years. A man whose connection to the family had always been somewhat mysterious. Now that mystery was solved in the worst possible way, Beatrice learned that the man whose blood ran through her veins had been hidden in plain sight her entire life. He had watched her grow up from a distance, never able to claim her as his own. This revelation added another layer of pain to an already unbearable situation. It was not just that she had been lied to about her father. It was that her real father had been forced to remain silent while another man received all the love and recognition. Beatrice thought about him watching her call someone else daddy. She imagined the pain he must have experienced at every birthday party, every graduation, every milestone he could observe but never truly be part of. The tragedy extended far beyond her own broken heart. The confrontation spread beyond her mother to include other family members. Beatrice demanded to know who else had been aware of this secret. The answers she received destroyed whatever remaining trust she had in her family. Senior members admitted they had known for years. They justified their silence as necessary for the stability of the monarchy. To them, institutional preservation was more important than one girl's right to know her own identity. Beatrice felt something break inside her that day. It was not just her relationship with her family that shattered. It was her faith in the very concept of family. How could people who claimed to love her participate in such an enormous deception? How could they watch her build her entire identity on a lie and say nothing? The betrayal felt absolute and unforgivable. She told them she was not sure she could ever look at them the same way again, facing the world and finding a new path. The secret could not stay contained within palace walls forever. Someone leaked the DNA results to the media, and within hours the story exploded across every news outlet in the world. Headlines screamed about scandal, deception, and the fall of royal authenticity. Journalists who had covered the family for years suddenly had the biggest story of their careers. Every detail of Beatrice's life, was now being examined through the lens of this revelation. The media frenzy was relentless and brutal. Television programs ran special segments analyzing the implications of this discovery. Talk show hosts debated whether Beatrice should retain her royal titles.
Andrew's daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, now have one option: to voluntarily renounce their royal titles.
Social media became a battlefield where supporters and critics fought endless wars of words. Some people attacked her as if she had done something wrong. Others defended her as an innocent victim of circumstances beyond her control. Through it all, Beatrice had to watch her most painful personal moment become public entertainment. Public reaction surprised many observers who expected universal condemnation. Instead, a wave of sympathy emerged for Beatrice. Ordinary people recognized that she was not the villain of this story, but its primary victim. They saw a young woman whose life had been built on lies told by others. Many shared their own stories of family secrets and discovered truths. Beatrice became a symbol for anyone who had ever felt betrayed by the people they trusted most. The anger that did emerge was directed primarily at the institution that had orchestrated the cover-up. People questioned how an establishment that positioned itself as a pillar of tradition and values could operate with such systematic dishonesty. Protests appeared outside palace gates demanding accountability. Critics called for reforms that would make the monarchy more transparent. The revelation had damaged not just one family, but public trust in the entire institution. Inside the palace, crisis management teams worked around the clock to control the damage. Official statements were released, expressing support for Beatrice, while carefully avoiding any admission of wrongdoing. Public relations experts crafted messages designed to redirect attention away from the deception and toward themes of family unity. But these efforts felt hollow to a public that now questioned everything the palace said. For Beatrice, the public scrutiny added another burden to her already overwhelming pain. She could not grieve privately because cameras followed her everywhere. Every tear, every moment of vulnerability became content for news programs and tabloid magazines. She felt exposed in a way that went beyond anything she had experienced before. The palace walls that once protected her privacy now felt like a prison with transparent walls. The question of her biological father remained complicated and painful. He had stayed silent throughout the media storm, refusing interviews and avoiding public attention. Some interpreted this as evidence of guilt, while others saw it as respect for Beatrice's need to process everything. She eventually reached out to him, needing to understand his perspective on everything that had happened. Their meeting was emotional beyond words. He told her about years of watching her from a distance, loving her but unable to express it. He explained the pressures that had forced him into silence, the threats that had kept him away. He did not ask for forgiveness because he was not sure he deserved it, but he wanted her to know that not a day had passed when he did not think of her. Beatrice listened and felt her anger slowly mixing with something that resembled understanding. The man who raised her also deserved consideration in this situation. He had loved Beatrice as his own daughter regardless of biology. He had provided stability, guidance, and genuine paternal affection. Whether he knew the truth or was also deceived remained unclear. But his love for her had been real, even if their genetic connection was not. Beatrice had to find a way to honor that love, while also acknowledging her biological reality. After months of turmoil, Beatrice made a decision about her future. She chose to remain part of the royal family while demanding fundamental changes in how it operated. She refused to pretend the deception had not happened or that everything was forgiven. Instead, she insisted on honesty going forward. She maintained relationships with both the man who raised her and her biological father, refusing to choose between them. Her approach became an inspiration for many people facing similar situations. Beatrice demonstrated that identity is more complex than genetics alone. The people who raise us, who love us, who shape our values, matter regardless of biological connection. At the same time, biological truth deserves acknowledgement and respect. She found a way to hold both realities without letting either one define her completely. The monarchy itself was forced to evolve because of this crisis. Old practices of secrecy and cover-up became harder to justify in a world that had witnessed their consequences. Younger members of the royal family pushed for modernization and transparency. The institution that had worked so hard to bury the truth now had to learn how to live with exposure. It was painful, but ultimately necessary for survival. Beatrice emerged from this experience fundamentally changed, but not destroyed. She discovered strength she did not know she possessed. She learned that truth, no matter how painful, is preferable to comfortable lies. She found that identity is something you build through your choices and values, not something determined entirely by blood. Her tears had been real, her pain had been genuine, but so was her resilience. Princess Beatrice's story teaches us that secrets cannot stay buried forever, and that our true identity is shaped by how we respond to life's hardest challenges. She faced betrayal from those closest to her and emerged stronger than before. Her courage to demand truth and her willingness to forge a new path forward inspires millions around the world. If this story moved you, smash that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Beatrice made the right decisions? How would you handle discovering such a massive family secret? Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming video. No royal aide, no advisor had dared to reveal. The numbers, the markers, the comparisons, they were precise, undeniable. And at the center of it all was a name Kate had never expected to see, one that linked her to a lineage she had only glimpsed in whispers. The truth was both staggering and horrifying. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. She gripped the paper to her chest, her mind spinning with fragments of memory, fleeting glances from Charles, whispered comments over dinners, moments that had seemed trivial, now loaded with ominous meaning. She remembered reading Diana's old letters years ago, casual words now echoing with prophecy. Diana had hinted at a shadow, a presence in her life hidden from public view, something she feared yet had documented meticulously. Now, decades later, that presence revealed itself, not in rumors, not in speculation, but in undeniable scientific evidence. Kate shuddered as a chilling thought gripped her. What if the palace had known? What if Charles, so often composed, so deliberate, had carried this knowledge silently, shaping every gesture, every command, every expectation? The room seemed to close in around her. In the distance, the laughter of her children drifted down the corridor, innocent and unknowing, contrasting with the storm that had erupted inside her. Every instinct told her this was more than personal. It was a revelation that could fracture the monarchy, destabilize centuries of tradition, and shatter public trust. Kate had faced scrutiny before, had carried the weight of expectation, but nothing had prepared her for this. She sank into a chair, hands clutching the report, as the enormity of its implications settled like ice in her veins. The DNA wasn't just a result. It was a bridge to a past meticulously hidden, a past that Diana had protected even in death, perhaps hoping one day someone worthy would uncover it. And then the letters came to life.
It shines through in her letters, particularly to people that she was obviously very, very fond of and close to.
Kate recalled the tiny details of Diana's warnings, the hints scattered like breadcrumbs across diaries, personal notes, and private confidences. There had been a pattern, a deliberate trail of clues left for someone strong enough to follow, someone capable of holding the truth without collapsing under its weight. That person was now Kate. She realized that every cautious smile, every moment of restraint in the palace had been preparation, almost as if she had been unknowingly trained to carry this revelation. The responsibility pressed down, heavier than any tiara, weightier than protocol, more binding than loyalty. She could not look away. She could not ignore the truth lying in her hands. Hours passed in a blur. Kate combed through every line of the report again, tracing connections, questioning assumptions, piecing together a puzzle decades in the making. Each revelation seemed designed to test her resolve, to see if she could endure the collision of history and family. And as she worked, a new understanding emerged. Diana had not simply been a victim of circumstance. She had been a strategist of secrets, a guardian of truths too dangerous to surface in her lifetime. The DNA report was the final chapter in a narrative she had written carefully, deliberately, leaving behind the ultimate proof of her foresight and her defiance. Kate's eyes blurred again with tears, this time not just of shock, but of awe at the courage embedded in each line, each number, each notation. Diana's voice, though silent for decades, spoke through the pages, demanding recognition, demanding action. Kate realized then that she could not be passive. This was no longer about discretion or decorum. This was about legacy, about justice, about honoring the woman who had lived and died in the shadow of a crown while shielding the truth from the world.
Princess Diana will always be remembered as a groundbreaking force for change. The late royal broke down barriers by embracing her soft side.
The DNA report, a simple sheet of paper, had become a battleground. She understood that every decision she made from this moment forward would ripple through history, influencing not just the royal family, but the entire nation, perhaps the world. A single revelation had the power to rewrite the narrative of an era. And so, trembling but resolute, Kate rose from the chair. The first step had been taken, the secret unveiled to her alone. But the question loomed larger than ever. How would she act, and who could she trust with the explosive truth she now held? As she looked out over the palace gardens, the weight of generations pressing on her, she made a silent vow. Diana's story would not die in silence. It would be honored, revealed, and respected, even if it meant challenging the very institution that had sought to bury it. The envelope, the report, the hidden truth, it was all hers to carry now. And carry it she would, with courage that mirrored the woman who had sent it from beyond the veil of history itself. Into the depths of truth. When Kate Middleton held the DNA report in her hands, a strange balance hung in the air between the silent calm of the palace room and an unbearable tension. Every breath seemed to stop time. Every line on the paper stirred a storm in her heart, and a question kept echoing in her mind. Why was this secret hidden for so many years? The answer was far from simple, and no one had ever imagined it would emerge with such intensity. She realized that Diana's letters and photographs, once merely keepsakes, now stood as mirrors of the truth. Page by page, Kate noticed how Diana had concealed her presence in every word, every sentence, a hidden clue, an invisible guide that time was now revealing. The DNA report completed this hidden reality, a secret powerful enough to shake the foundations of the royal family, and now that power lay in her hands. Determined to uncover more, Kate began investigating the palace's hidden archives and Diana's old letters. She entered a long locked room, its walls steeped in centuries of secrets. Dusty journals, letters, and photographs lined the shelves, each one preserving Diana's cunning and careful planning. Among the photos, a man appeared, whose face, upon closer inspection, was hauntingly intertwined with Diana's life. Every word in the report told Kate this was not merely a revelation, it was a warning, a confidential document that could alter her life and potentially the monarchy itself. She wondered, could this man, hidden for years, actually be a part of the family? That question shook her to the core. As she dug deeper, it became evident that several members of the royal family had known about this secret, but remained silent. Every glance, every gesture now carried new meaning. Charles's cool, concise statements and Camilla's quiet movements now hinted at something larger. This secret was entwined with power, influence, and decades of careful strategy. Kate compared the DNA report with Diana's letters, and every hidden symbol and word became clearer. Diana's courage, her caution, her fear, all painted a complex map of her life. Kate realized she had a duty, not only to protect herself but to bring this truth into the light of the world. The secret was not only about the past, it could shape future decisions, family relationships, and the structure of royal power. With every new discovery, her heart raced, pulling her further into the unfolding storm. Within the silence of the palace, Kate resolved it was time. The years of concealment had ended. She gathered the DNA report and Diana's letters and stepped out into the world, carrying both fear and determination. She knew that from this moment, not only her life, but the entire narrative of the royal family was about to change. The secret, hidden for decades, was on the verge of exposure. Every moment, every decision, every step would shape the future of the family. And with that weight pressing down, Kate made a solemn vow. She would not allow Diana's story to die in silence.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident,
but would bring her courage and truth into the light for all the world to see. The final revelation and fallout. The palace was unusually silent that morning, as if every stone, every gilded railing held its breath. Kate's hands trembled around the DNA report, a fragile piece of paper that carried the weight of decades of secrets, lies, and unspoken truths. This was no ordinary document. It was a key, a spark that could ignite a storm capable of toppling even the most unyielding of thrones. As she walked down the long, echoing corridor, every step seemed to echo centuries of hidden history, whispers of a past that had never been meant for public eyes. The question hung in the air like smoke. Could a single revelation change the very foundation of the monarchy? Inside William's study, the tension was palpable. He looked up at Kate, sensing the gravity of what she carried. His normally composed eyes betrayed a flicker of fear and anticipation, the subtle signs of a man unprepared for the truth. Kate placed the report on the polished desk, her voice low, trembling yet unwavering. "William, this is Diana's secret. DNA proves everything." For a moment, time itself seemed suspended. He leaned in, scanning the words, the names, the dates, as the reality of the revelation crashed down around him like a tidal wave. Years of whispered rumors, courtly gossip, and half-forgotten suspicions suddenly crystallized into undeniable truth. Diana had a child, one the world had never known. A child whose existence had been hidden behind the walls of the palace, protected by silence, and shielded by a careful network of secrecy. The crown he had been groomed to inherit no longer felt absolute, no longer felt unchallenged. Every foundation he had trusted wavered under the weight of Diana's unspoken legacy. Kate's gaze did not waver. She had made a choice long before stepping into the study. The truth had to be honored, not buried. For years, Diana's voice had whispered through the pages of letters.
These are just a few of the letters that Diana sent through the years that are family treasures at this point.
Through fragments of diaries, through subtle glances captured in photographs. Now it was Kate's turn to carry that voice, to transform whispers into revelation, and to bear the weight of exposing what the institution had fought so fiercely to conceal. Outside, the palace began to stir with unusual activity. Courtiers and staff exchanged furtive glances, aware that a secret of immense magnitude had surfaced. Camilla, ever calculating, sensed the tremors in the political and familial order. She moved through the palace with a precision only honed through decades of survival and strategy, eyes sharp, mind calculating. Every step of Kate and William's journey, every sigh, every hesitation was noted, catalogued, and anticipated. For Camilla, silence had always been a weapon, a shield. But now silence alone would not contain the coming storm. The day stretched onward, each moment carrying a tension as thick as velvet, yet sharp as a blade. Kate and William faced an impossible choice: conceal the truth to protect the crown, or reveal it and risk unimaginable chaos. To hide the revelation would betray Diana's memory. To reveal it could dismantle the monarchy itself. Yet in their hearts, the moral imperative was clear. Silence was no longer an option. When Kate stepped before the cameras, the world fell silent with her. She was no longer the poised duchess. She was a woman holding the remnants of decades of deception. Her voice, though quivering, carried the weight of justice. She revealed Diana's secret child, recounting the hidden history, the letters, the DNA report, the clues Diana had left behind. Every word hung in the air like a hammer, striking the foundations of a centuries-old institution. The world listened, transfixed, as the narrative shifted from legend to revelation, from myth to undeniable reality. At that moment, the monarchy itself trembled. The public had long adored Diana, yet now they learned of a truth deliberately concealed by those entrusted to protect not only the crown, but the facade of perfection. Anger, disbelief, awe, and sympathy rippled across the globe. The palace, once a sanctuary of order, now faced scrutiny, questions, and a moral reckoning that no decree could suppress. William felt the weight of history pressing down upon him. For the first time, he confronted not just the legacy of his mother, but the failures of the institution he was destined to lead. The DNA report had stripped away the illusions of control, revealing that even royalty was subject to the caprices of secrecy, deceit, and human ambition. He looked at Kate, finding strength in her resolve, and realized that together they had become guardians of truth, the last line of defense against the silence that had allowed injustice to fester. Camilla, watching from the shadows, had anticipated this moment in part, but not entirely. The revelation threatened her carefully constructed influence, her position, and the balance of power she had painstakingly maintained. Yet even in the storm, she remained composed, knowing that every reaction, every word spoken, would be scrutinized for weakness or advantage. Her eyes, cold and calculating, followed every movement, waiting, weighing, and preparing for her own maneuver in the chessboard of royalty. As the day progressed, public reaction intensified. Headlines exploded, discussions flooded every corner of social media, debates erupted over the legitimacy, the ethics, and the consequences. A secret that had been guarded for decades now belonged to the world, unstoppable and undeniable. Questions of inheritance, legitimacy, and duty clashed with the visceral empathy for Diana's child, whose existence had been hidden to protect the crown. The monarchy's image wavered, teetering on a precipice between admiration and scrutiny. Kate and William retreated briefly, seeking solace and strategy. They knew that disclosure was only the beginning. There were legal complexities, public expectations, and the emotional toll of revealing long-buried truths. Yet the moment of courage, the choice to reveal rather than conceal, had been made. Every action now would be measured against the bravery of that decision. The evening fell, quieting the palace corridors, but leaving no peace in the hearts of its inhabitants. The revelations had shifted the landscape of royalty forever. Even the children, unaware of the full implications, would inherit a legacy rewritten in real time. Every memory, every portrait, every tradition would be reconsidered through the lens of this newly unveiled reality. And then, as the palace settled under the cloak of night, a figure emerged from the shadows, the hidden child, stepping into the light. For the first time, the world would see the face of Diana's secret legacy. Their presence radiated quiet strength, a dignity shaped by years in the shadows, and a courage born of survival. Every camera, every observer, Every member of the royal family was drawn to the significance of this singular moment. History held its breath. The final act was complete. Kate and William had honored Diana, confronted the monarchy with truth, and positioned themselves at the forefront of an irreversible shift. Yet the consequences, the debates, the reckonings had only begun. Secrets could no longer remain buried. Power could no longer exist without accountability. The crown, the institution, and the family had all been forever altered. As the credits of history seemed to pause, Kate's voice echoed one last time across the corridors of legacy and truth. We cannot allow Diana's secret to die in silence. It must live, for her, for us, for the generations yet to come. And with that, the chapter closed, but the story, the struggle, and the revelations would continue. If you found this story gripping, suspenseful, and impossible to put down, subscribe to our channel now. Click like, share your thoughts in the comments, and stay with us as we continue to uncover the hidden truths behind history's most secretive walls. Every secret has a story, and every story deserves to be told. Don't miss what comes next, because the next revelation could change everything.